Time now on Sky Sports Radio for Going Greyhounds for your daily update of the latest news and tips.
And time to go, Greyhounds. And Liam Tapper joining us now from Greyhound Racing New South Wales. Morning, Liam.
Good morning to you, Cozzy, on what's a very busy morning, I can tell you, here in New South Wales Greyhound Racing and also in many parts of the national greyhound racing landscape as we come to terms with the news announced yesterday that this year's Golden Easter Egg Carnival has been rescheduled due to this current coronavirus situation. We're fortunate enough this morning to be joined on Going Greyhounds by Greyhound Racing New South Wales CEO Tony Mestrov for a comment on the situation, as I imagine he'll be very busy this morning, so we'll try and keep it as brief as possible, but we're very lucky to have him on the line right now. How are you today, Tony?
Good morning, Liam. How are you? Yes, definitely a changing world in what we live in.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us. As I said, it would be a very busy morning for you. I guess the first thing is the rescheduling of the Golden Easter Egg Carnival. Are you able to walk our listeners through this decision? As I imagine there would have been a great consideration that went into it.
Yeah, there was. And obviously, the first organisation we consulted with was Kubota. Essentially, it's their race each year. It's obviously a prestigious event on the calendar. So there was a number of things that were the basis for our decision. Firstly, it was in the best interest of our participants. We've seen what's happened over the last week. Things have duly changed. So for us to allow participants to travel, particularly from interstate, we thought was a danger at this period, particularly around catching the virus. So that was important, number one. And I think it also gives us an opportunity to evaluate and monitor what is going on in society and make changes later. So because of the enormity of the event and so many participants travelling, particularly from interstate, we thought it was best to postpone it and we can make decisions at a later date.
So I guess really at the core of it all was the best interest of the greyhound racing participants, because as you say, they are coming from around Australia, but in these mass groupings of people of 500 or more, the participants were really at the key to the heart of the decision, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And also, we just don't know what's going to happen in the future if there is going to be travel restrictions. We just don't know. And if that's the case, we would deprive a lot of interstate trainers the opportunity to be involved in the Golden Easter Egg, and we think that would take away from the product. So our job as Greyhound Racing New South Wales is to give opportunity not only to our local participants but also participants across the country in this national event. So I think that's important. We just don't know what's going to happen, and we think by having the event on the 6th of June, which is a long weekend, we give our organisation, Kubota, the opportunity to have a discussion.
Yeah, well, before we let you go this morning, and we appreciate you giving up your time, as we could imagine it's a very busy morning for you. However, yesterday you opened up a line of communication from yourself to the general public where you have and will continue to answer a series of questions on the current coronavirus situation. What was the thinking behind this, what seemingly is a great initiative?
Yeah, sure. I think at the moment communication is the key, not only to participants, to the wider community. And I thought by introducing a Q&A, it will answer questions that participants or staff may very well have. So I notice in this period there's lots of innuendos and so on. I think participants can go to the Greyhound Racing New South Wales website and get the information they require, and also any questions or reservations they have, they can send in. It was an idea brought together and suggested by the team, which was a great idea, and obviously I see other states are now taking that on. So really communication's key. We don't want any misgivings out there or wrong information transgressing to our participants. So the idea is communication is clear and participants really know what's going on out there.
Yeah, well, Tony, these really are unprecedented times, not just in greyhound racing, but right across society. And judging from the reaction to yesterday's decision from Greyhound Racing New South Wales and the GBOTA, people understand the need for this to happen. So thank you very much for giving us your time this morning on Going Greyhounds.
Thanks, Liam. I just want to also make the point that, our, as an organisation, our main focus and job is to provide livelihoods for our participants, and we will keep racing. Unless we're told to do so, we're keeping racing. So that's the message out there for the participants as well, and thanks for having me on the show.
No, fantastic, and I'm sure that the participants really do appreciate that. Cozzy, there you go. Tony Mestrov, CEO of Greyhound Racing New South Wales, explaining in detail yesterday's decision to reschedule this year's Golden Easter Egg. I know it must have come as a surprise, but as you hear from Tony there, it was a decision made in the best interest of so many people.
And it's a case of having to adapt at the moment, Liam, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. And as Tony said, then it's just an ever-changing beast. Day by day, the situation is updated. And I think it's really key. One of the things that he said there was to keep the communication line going. Yeah. And so that's the point of this Q&A, that it was well received. And I know that Tony's putting another one out today as well. So that line of communication is certainly well and truly open.
All right, Daryl Thomas with you now.
Well, it's time to talk a little bit of racing because, after all, it is race day of one of the best regional cups here in New South Wales, and that's the Husqvarna Maitland Gold Cup. And what a final it's set to be this year. We have group-winning finalists right across the board in this one, and they don't come much bigger in this year's final than the greyhound whose trainer we're joined with right now, and that's Legrand Quality, and we have Daryl Thomas on the line. How are you today, Daryl?
Yeah, good morning, Lamb. Yeah, I'm well.
Good, mate. I guess, first up, these are uncertain times, but how are you and the kennel and the family holding up at the moment?
Yeah, no, we're all good. We're just sort of trying to stay at home as best as possible and go out when we need to. But, all the dogs are good and, no, we're all fine.
Oh, that's good to hear. On to tonight, mate. It's nice to talk about some racing. How's he looking on race day and how did he pull up after last week's heat?
Yeah, no, he's really well. I was a little bit concerned because he didn't have the greatest preparation going into last week's race and he's come out of it very, very well. So, yeah, looking on to the night, his work's been terrific through the week. He's injury-free and ready to run.
I guess onto the heat last week, that was the duel that many of us were hoping for. Turbo Thomas get out to the lead and your fella chase him down on the home stretch there. Were you happy with the run last week? I know you said he was a little bit underdone, but overall, were you pleased with the run?
Oh, yeah, his run for me was sensational. To catch that dog, to give Turbo 4 or 5 length start, and my dog, he sort of, when he jumped, he wanted to crash to the rails, and he sort of brought himself undone and sort of let Turbo get away. But to run him down and be wide and to make the ground up, I thought it was a sensational run. But look, it's all different tonight, and it all changes again. The box draws sort of levels it up a lot more for my dog. I think he needs to use his box, and if he doesn't, well, he's sort of got no chance if he dwells at the start, I think. But hopefully he uses his box to his advantage and makes a good race.
Talking of the box draw, what do you make of, I guess we just heard about what you think about your fella in the red, but what do you make of the rest of the field? Where do the dangers come from to him?
Oh, look, it's a quality field. It's right across the park. But looking at the box draw, but believe it or not, I think Turbo Thomas is well boxed in the 6th. He's sort of got a dog inside him that can dwell, and Knight's Page drawn outside of him that wants to be wide, and Turbo just don't miss it. He's just so professional, so I can see him being right there. Maybe for me, the 3 dog looks my biggest problem, I believe, Fire and Ice, because she can really Shanghai out, and she might put a lot of pressure down to the rail on him. So, yeah, but other than that, if he can come out and hold his spot, then the one box may be the right box tonight.
He really seems to lift in these big races, doesn't he? The Grafton Maiden, there was the track record there at Ballarat, and of course the Warragul Cup. He seems to go toe-to-toe with these quality greyhounds, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think he's learnt to race the better dogs. I think in the Ballarat Cup final, he learned a lot. He thought he could do whatever he wanted, and they just give it to him. And I sort of come away from it thinking, if he keeps dwelling in these big races, he's sort of got no chance. But since then, we went to Warragul, and I think that was one of the best Warragul Cup fields you've seen. You had Whiskey Wright, who, he speaks it all. You had Crimson Vixen, who's one of the best one-turn Cup specialists down there. And look, he sort of led that field, and I think tonight, if he can sort of produce that sort of run again, that he'll be right on pace. And even I wouldn't be surprised if he does get the start right, that he does lead.
Well, mate, it will be certainly is going to be one red hot race, Daryl. We really appreciate all that you've done for us in the lead up to tonight's final. You've been really generous with your time over the past 2 weeks, and we hope for your sake tonight you come out on top, mate. Thanks very much for joining us today, and all the best tonight.
Cheers, Liam. Thanks very much.
There you go, Cozzy. Daryl Thomas, trainer of Legrand Quality, a sensational greyhound, particularly on these one-turn tracks. And we'll jump from the one tonight in the Husqvarna Maitland Gold Cup. And what a beauty it's set to be.
All right. Any other info about the postponed Easter egg?
Yeah, well, I guess Tony covered most of those points there. However, for anyone who hasn't yet read the release on the dogs.com.au or the Greyhound Racing New South Wales website, one of the key elements of it is that it has been rescheduled for March 28, and it will be pushed back with the heat starting on May 30 and the finals run the following week on June 6th. It's not just the Easter egg. We'll also have the Group 1 Association Cup, the Group 3 Magic Maiden, New Sensation, the Ambrosoli and the Ultra Sense will also be run during this time. So for anyone who is unsure, these races will still be run then, and anyone who wants to find out more details, they can go to thedogs.com.au or grnsw.com.au.
All right, and of course you covered the Q&A as well, which is fantastic news.
Yeah, as we mentioned yesterday, one of the lines of communication from Tony to the general public and the participants is open. It's on update@grnsw.com.au. That's the email that you can send your questions in that you may have. Quickly to address some of them, questions around trialling, if they'll continue despite crowds not being allowed in. And the answer is yes, however, they'll be conducted under the same strict guidelines as a race meeting. There was a question about whether children are allowed on track, and unfortunately at the moment they're not allowed to be there. And finally, whether greyhound adoptions will still be occurring, because there were a few adoption days slated for the near future. GAP New South Wales are still conducting adoptions. However, you can find all that information at gapnsw.com.au.
All right, now Country Racing, with a change to race time Sunday at Wagga?
Yeah, that's true. So this race time actually came up due to the changing of the Sale Race Club meeting, of the Twilight meeting this Sunday. Wagga will now be broadcast on Sky Racing 1, with racing beginning at 5:44. And like most of the information at the moment, that can be found at thedogs.com.au for anyone who's unsure of those times.
All right, now finally a couple of good things for us.
Yeah, well, we're going to go today, first up at Goulburn. We like the look of Vintage Dancer in the 4 in race 6. Then at Dapto this evening, Braby Got Back out of the 6 in race 2. And then finishing off tonight at Maitland, we're going to get proceedings underway with Whitfield out of box 7 in race 1. So Goulburn, race 6, box 4, Dapto, race 2, box 6, and Maitland, race 1, box 7.
All right, good on you, Liam. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Appreciate it, Cozzy. Have a good day.